Hello, this is Sue from English Today. Welcome to our grammar series where we give 5 easy tips in under 5 minutes. Today we're tackling an exciting part of English grammar with over 10,000 phrasal verbs in English. You would think it's a very important part of our everyday speech and communication, and you're right. So today we will look at how phrasal verbs work and how we can use it in our daily lives. So tip number 1 is to look at form. Phrasal verb comprises of 2 components. One is a verb and the other is another part of speech such as adverb or preposition. So let's take a look. And if you look at these verbs like look, take, and show, they would take on another adverb or preposition like after or up, and they are now transformed into a phrasal verb. And they mean completely different than the verb alone, which brings us to tip number 2. So we look at the type. So to identify phrasal verb, we have to look at the entire sentence. So the words have to be understood alongside a meaning, or it has little or nothing to do with the original verb. So here are some examples. So is it an expression or phrasal verb? And usually phrasal verbs are 2-word expressions, but an expression is an idiom and they don't have a specific number of verbs. So the 2 examples here, like take advantage of or take into account, are examples of expressions, and take in and take off are phrasal verbs. And tip number 3 when using phrasal verb is to think about its meaning. So the particle often changes the meaning of the verb alone, and the particle that is added to would change the phrasal verb completely. So if you look at the verb taking, I'm taking the meeting online, meaning I will be attending the meeting online, is completely different when it takes on another particle such as off. So adding off changes the meaning of the verb. So now it's a phrasal verb, which means it's improving. My business is taking off. That means it's improving. It's generating income pretty well right now after the pandemic, for example. And tip number 4 would be to think about whether the phrasal verb is literal or it is just idiomatic. So the meaning can easily be understood, or is it tough to understand? So that means the phrasal verb is figurative. So if we look at this example, she was walking across the street. So walking across here means physical. You would move your body from one street to the other, versus a phrase that is figurative or idiomatic. I didn't mean to come across that way, meaning you didn't mean to come off as rude or insincere. So the meaning is different than something that's physical. So that's the difference between literal or idiomatic. And tip number 5 is to look at the structure. Is the phrasal verb separable or inseparable? With separable means the verb and the particle can be placed together or apart in these types of phrasal verb. And especially if you use a pronoun, instead of the subject, the phrasal verb becomes separated. So if you look at take off in these 3 sentences, Mike took off his jacket, Mike took his jacket off, you can separate take and off. And if you use it instead of his jacket, you can say Mike took it off. Now, phrasal verbs that are no longer make sense if you separate it, it's inseparable. So Mike's business took off during the lockdown cannot be separated because there's no object in that part. All right, so there you have it, our 5 easy tips in just under 5 minutes. And I hope you enjoy learning. Thank you.